Alrighty, so I'm actually going to start the review of the remaining Saturday night game, looking at some of these late West Coast game and also the 8:30 p.m. Eastern kickoff before the game between the Timbers and Vancouver finish, because that game is so out of hand that, obviously there's really no point of watching the remaining part of the game that is. But we also still have one more game that is coming up later tonight, and it is definitely a highly anticipated, not only the debut of Sunday Night Soccer, but also we get to see the new boys, San Diego FC, facing against the defending MLS Cup champion, that is the LA Galaxy. But before that game, like I said, we're going to look at the remaining Saturday night game, and we start off with the first one between Austin versus Sporting KC. So, yesterday when we talk about those 7:30 p.m. starts, those games was absolutely insane when it comes to the goal scoring and also the defensive mishap. And while the defensive mishaps still happen in some of these later game as well, the goal scoring was definitely down compared to the 7:30 p.m. Eastern time start. In fact, on this board, there's only 4 goals in total that was scored, and we saw both of these games ended in a 0-0 draw. And this one between Austin and Sporting KC looked like was on its way to end in a 0-0 draw. But Austin gets the set piece goal late in this game and to prevail in the first game for Nico Estevez in charge of this team. Now, in the first half, not much really happened in the first 14 minutes of this game, despite the fact that Austin controlled the game. The first shot of the game did see Vasquez hits one that was actually spilled by Postgame, but gather on the second attempt. Vasquez kind of had a bit of an underwhelming debut, and this was always going to happen. Consider, I think it was Zini didn't play in this game, and without a real playmaker on this team to feed the ball to Vasquez, it's not a big surprise that he didn't really had a relatively spectacular debut as well. He's kind of a number 9 that needs service, and this is why Austin is really hoping when eventually they get their big signing in as soon as possible. Barrow then hits it just wide from close range before Wolf puts one wide from close in the 20th minute. Austin definitely had the momentum early in this game. They were pressing to get the opening goal. Bakari would then puts one wide from close range. The shots were 5-0 for Austin 30 minutes in. So it was pretty much all Austin, at least early on in this one. Sporting KC clearly did not start on time and still maybe feeling the effect of losing to Inter Miami in the middle of the week. Though that being said, in the 36th minute, we saw the first shot of the game for Sporting KC as Stuver had to deny Showery there, but Agata had a second chance, and this was a big second chance that he had. He had pretty much a gaping net staring down at him, but he puts that one over the board. So yeah, that was a big missed opportunity for Sporting KC and a big way to score against the run of play. But we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Pereira would blast it over from close range before Garcia hits it right to Stuver in the 56th minute. But just like the first half, not much happened early in the second half. Besides those 2 chances, it was still kind of a bit of a dull game. Tommy would then puts it wide on the free kick in the 63rd minute, but then in the 76th minute, Austin finally broke through. It's Bakari. He scored from Wolves to make it 1-0 in favor of Austin. Yeah, that was not great set piece defending from Sporting KC. Like anytime when you decided to let the ball bounce in the box coming from a corner, you are in big trouble. Like the number one rule when it comes to defending set pieces, you cannot let the ball bounce in the box or let someone flick toward goal, because usually when that happens, trouble definitely spells out, and that is exactly what happened. Sporting KC let that ball bounce there, and then I'm not sure did it maybe took a deflection or whatsoever, but Jake Davis was there in the back post ready to clear that one off the line, and he just kind of decided not to do his job and let Bakari hits it into the empty net. So yeah, just a combination of defensive breakdown there from Sporting KC on that set piece defending, and they were rightly punished because of it. And then it was almost 2-0 if it wasn't for the post denying Vasquez of probably the biggest opportunity that he had up to this point. Austin was definitely looking for a second late, trying to put this game away, and despite not getting the second goal, they still hold on to win 1-0 in this one. As the shots in this one, 12 shots with the 7 that Sporting KC had. Both teams had 2 shots on goal, 4 shots off target with a 3 that Sporting KC had, 2 shots on block with a 5 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 57% possession compared to 43% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And while it wasn't a vintage debut for Nico Estevez of getting his first win, they'll definitely take it as well, and they can continue to build on that heading into their future game. But for Sporting KC, oh boy, it looked like this could be another long year for them. Now back to back 1-0 loss, and I get that some of the new signing that they had, it's gonna take time for them to integrate, but yeah, it seems like they need to definitely integrate soon because if they get off to another slow start again, we know that whenever they get off to a slow start, most of the time they might not recover, just like what we saw last year as well. Now, moving on, in the next match is the El Capitan matchup between the Houston Dynamo and FC Dallas in the first Copa Tijas of the year. And I gotta say, this game looked like it was gonna end in a draw because that's kind of how it is with the Texas Derby and El Capitan. And also, I would like to say that, yeah, this was a bit of an uneventful game for the most part, and you can kind of tell that because I didn't really write too much notes on the board for this game. But another thing I would also say is that Houston basically gifted Dallas to win in this one because those two goals that the Dynamo gave up are just not only once again some bad defensive breakdown that we've seen pretty much throughout this opening weekend, but just some gifted goals that Dallas they would absolutely take it, and I'm pretty sure their new manager Peter Quill, even though it wasn't pretty, he'll be happy of getting his first win in a Texas derby like this. So early on, the first shot of the game did see McGlynn hits one right to post. I thought Jack McGlynn had a good game for the Dynamo, and you can see what he can do to this team, continue to bring that excellence that he had with the Union now to him with the Houston Dynamo. The shots were 2-0 early on to this game. Again, it was a bit of an uneventful start to this game, and that kind of would be the theme throughout this game. The first shot for Dallas did see Uga Hade hits it right to Tarbell, but then in the 18th minute, the Dynamo takes the lead. It's Amin Bassi. He scored from Ponce and Dorsey to give the Dynamo a 1-0 lead. They did actually check to see whether or not if there was actually a foul in the box leading up to that goal. VAR says no, so the goal stand, and the Dynamo has a 1-0 lead. And that was really pretty much it for the action, at least for majority of the first half. We just gone for a long period of time where not much really happened. The next chance came in the first minute of stoppage time with Julio flashed it wide from close range, but we do head to halftime with the host leading 1-0. In the second half, Julio missed an absolute sitter from close range. Yeah, that is one that Anderson Julio would want to have back. And he had a good game in this one, a good debut for Dallas as well, and he would be a big part in Dallas win in this Texas Derby. But before that, in the 55th minute, Dallas ties the game up. It's Peter Musa off and running in 2025 with a goal here, and he can thank Ethan Bartlow for this because Bartlow just simply played right to him, and just like that, Musa said, "Thank you very much." He's gonna tuck it into to tuck that one in, and yeah, just like that, it was tied up at one apiece. And honestly, when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, this is really a week where defense not only is not on top, but we're gonna see some of the worst defensive mistakes that we have seen this season could happen. And again, this is expected with the way that we always talk about how sometimes the attacking player might be very rusted heading into the first game of the season. That goes the same for defensive player as well. They need to get themselves on the competitive edge, and usually early on they might make some mistakes you usually do not see them make as the season go so long, and this is an example of it. But in the 75th minute, the post almost give the or the post denied McGlynn and Houston a chance to almost retake the lead in the 75th minute. But in the 77th minute, Dallas would take the lead for the first time as Anderson Julio would score his first goal for Dallas from Musa to make it 2-1 in favor of Dallas. But again, it's just one that came from a simple long ball. Andrew Tarbell basically came off his lines. By the way, in the year of 2025, if Andrew Tarbell is your starting goalkeeper, and this is no disrespect to him, but you're not going to do so well when he is your starting goalkeeper for your team. I'm really surprised that they decided to go to Tarbell instead of bringing their recent goalkeeper in Jimmy Maurer, because I feel like if they're going to start Tarbell as the goalkeeper and let go of Steve Clark this offseason, that is a huge downgrade in my opinion. And yes, Tarbell did have that one good game for the Houston Dynamo, but for the most part, he's not anywhere close to being a starting caliber goalkeeper. And I know that for sure. As a Quakes fan, I know how much frustration Tarbell has put in me, and I'm just so happy the fact they eventually they move on from him. And it's safe to say that yeah, he still hasn't been anywhere close to being a starting caliber goalkeeper because he came off his lines here, and when you're a goalkeeper and when you come off your line, you don't get the ball first. Yeah, you're in big trouble. And Tarbell didn't get the ball first. Julio was able to get there, just speed through those tires. Dynamo defense, and as soon as he went past Tarbell. He basically had an empty net to score there. So yeah, that made it 2-1 in terms of the score line, and that also would be the final score of this game. Again, there was really anything that happened in this one. The Dynamo really didn't show any pushback whatsoever late in this game. The shots in this one surprisingly was pretty high. Like for a game that is uneventful, I'm surprised there was actually double-digit shot registered by a team. But 11 shots committed, 8 that Dallas had, 5 shots on goal committed, 3 that the Dynamo has, 3 shots off target committed, 1 that Dallas had, 3 shots that was blocked committed, 1 that Dallas had, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Dallas has in this game. And like I said, it wasn't pretty, but just like what I said about Austin and Nico Estevez, I think Peter Kroll will be happy to get his first win of the season in an ugly fashion. But for the Dynamo, they would be absolutely kicking themselves that they did not at least get a point or even a win in this one, because those 2 goals that they conceded are not only just preventable, but that should not happen in any way necessary, especially in the near future. Now, moving on into the next game, and now talk about a pair of nil-nil draw that happened this week. Because again, despite the goal scoring fest that we saw in the 7:30 game, there were a couple of nil-nil draw that happened. And it started off with this game between Nashville and New England, and it's not because of lack of trying when it comes to the nil-nil draw. I thought this was a game where both team had some chances, especially in Nashville case they had the more dangerous chances, but ultimately neither of these teams were able to capitalize. And just like the game between the Dynamo and Dallas, or actually just like the Austin versus Sporting KC game, because at least this game there was a chance 5 minutes in, but not much really happened in the first 15 minutes of this game. That's kind of almost a common theme with Nashville games nowadays. Surge with the game's first shot in the 15-minute, but he missed one. Before Yusuf with the rest first shot, but he puts that one over. Ivasic then tips Surge header over as the game started to liven up a little bit. Both of these teams was pushing for the opening goal. Mayer would then hits it wide from the corner before Meyer with flash one just wide from long range. By the way, it's going to be really difficult to not mistaken Jack Mayer with Meyer, the 2 Nashville player, because anytime when you have last names are really similar sound, I would not be surprised I might make a mistake throughout this review. But anyway, or not just this review, but pretty much throughout the entire season as well. But the shots were now 4-1 for Nashville up to this point. They were pressing for the opening goal. Ganago puts it over from close range before Carlos Hill would flash one wide from the free kick. And then Ivasic would deny Mukhtar in the near post. And then he puts it wide from long range in the 31st minute. Again, there's been a lot of chances up to this point, but still no goal to show for. And really for Hani Mukhtar, this game kind of once again sums up the problem he has had in his previous season. He just have looked like a shell of his old self. If this was the Hani Mukhtar from the MVP season, he probably would have got at least a couple of goals. But again, he just haven't looked like his old self, even in this first game as well. But in the end, we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the 59th minute, in the second half, Meyer would puts it over from long range. Yeah, this is gonna be I would not be surprised. I'm gonna make those mistake throughout this year. Talk about Nashville and those 2 players sit with similar name. Mukhtar then puts it wide from close in the 62nd minute. Nashville was definitely creating a couple of half chances and was looking for the opener. And they thought they got it in the 67th minute when Sam Surich put the ball into the back net. Unfortunately, the flag did not agree with him. So the goal was disallowed for offside. It remains 0-0. Surich tried to score again in the 78th minute, but he hits one right to Ivasic. New England were looking like they're starting to play for a scoreless draw, because Nashville was starting to really push for the opening goal. New England looked like they was just gonna end this game in a no result, and was really just kind of almost getting pinned back. Mukhtar would then put one wide from a tight angle before he puts it wide from long range in the 84th minute, and it just kind of feels like it's one of those nights again for Nashville. They just cannot finish, even the chances are presented to them. Surridge had a shot that was deflected and goes wide, but then in the 89th minute, New England thought they stole this as Fofana would put the ball into the back net. However, flag also did not agree with him. So yeah, the goal was disallowed for offside. So now both teams getting goals chopped off because of offside. And really, that moment, Nashville was very thankful for the flag, because that was not a good goal for them to concede if it counted, because they just completely caught not napping on a simple long throw in by New England there. But yeah, in the end, it ends in a scoreless draw between both of these teams. Shots in this one, 13 shots for the 12 that New England has, 3 shots on goal for the 2 that New England has, 4 shots off target compared to 7 that Nashville has, 2 shots that was blocked for the 6 that New England has, and possession wise dead even at 50% for both of these teams. And overall, I don't think either of these head coaches are going to be very happy with this result. I mean, both of these head coaches really want to make a statement in a big season for them heading into this year, and unfortunately, neither of them were able to do so because of them being very toothless in front of goal. Now, moving on in the next match, that also ended in a nil-nil draw. Though this one was a nil-nil draw simply because the home team just cannot finish. I mean, St. Louis will be absolutely be kicking themselves that they did not win in this game because Colorado pretty much decided from minute one that they're not going to attack whatsoever in this game. They're just going to sit back and hope that they can play a nil-nil draw, almost like they're going row Heath mode from minute one as well. And yet, despite that, they somehow able to got their wish in getting a nil-nil draw out of this game. Now, just like the Nashville versus New England game, not much really happened in the first 15 minutes of this game. They also mentioned the fact that the grass at well, it's not called City Park anymore. I think it's called Energizer Park now. The grass was a little bit taller than usual, and I guess they mentioned that it's because of weather condition. I mean, it was a very cold night in St. Louis for this one. Temperature we're in the 30s, but yet got to give a lot of credit to those St. Louis City fans. It still looked like a packed house, even though the temperature were in the 30s. But that also means with the grass being a little bit tall, you can see the ball was kind of moving a little bit slower than you usually see in a St. Louis City game. But that being said, in the 17th minute, they have their first chance, and it was a big one too because Betcher had a chance from point blank, but he was absolutely robbed by Zach Steffen. Continue his impressive performance that he had in this game prior to the LAFC CONCACAF Champions Cup game as well. And then the post would come to the Rapids' rescue as it denied Leuven on the free kick. But then Betcher got the rebound and he puts the ball into the back of net. Problem was that did not count because the flag came up for offside and it was a pretty late call as well. But nevertheless, it was offside. It remained 0-0. St. Louis definitely took control of the game. But still, 30 minutes into this game, there was only 2 shots registered for both. Or 2 shots in total in this game. Both belonged to St. Louis as well. Metro would then head to wide from close in the 45th minute, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Stefan denied Betcher from close as St. Louis kind of picked up where they left off on the front foot, pressing to try to get the opening goal. Kessel would then head it wide from the corner before Klaus kind of backheel one that goes right to Stefan. Totland then puts it wide from long range. St. Louis was pretty much creating not only many chances, but they are just pushing to try to get the opening goal. But again, you know the lack of finishing is kind of concerning for St. Louis because up to this point, despite the chances they have, they still haven't able to get that breakthrough. And there was no doubt that Colorado was clearly playing for a nil-nil draw. I mean, honestly, I probably would have just wrote that in the first half and it would still be relevant because they were not interested in terms of attacking whatsoever in this game. And keep in mind, it seemed like Chris Armas did kind of rotate the roster a little bit. So this was in some way a bit of a makeshift Rapids team heading into their big game against LAFC on the road in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Hardo then puts it high, which kind of sums up St. Louis night. The finishing was just not there. The same goes for Jao Klaus too. He heads it right to Stefan in the 90th minute. But then the first minute of stoppage time, Mahajevic probably had the best chance for the Rapids up to this point. He looked to steal one, but his shot was deflected wide. That actually ends up to be only one of 2 shots that the Colorado Rapids would register in this game. And despite the fact that they only registered 2 shots, they got a point out of this one. Nil-nil draw is the result, just like the Nashville versus New England game. The shots in this one, 18 shots compared to just 2 that the Rapids had. The Rapids didn't even had a shot on goal and shot on target in this one as well. Whereas St. Louis, they got 5 shots on goal compared to none that the Rapids had. 7 shots off target compared to none that the Rapids had. 2 shots was blocked compared to 5 that St. Louis had. And possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that the Colorado Rapids has in this game. And while it was ugly, the Rapids wouldn't care. They got the job that they needed by getting a big point away against a resurgent St. Louis side. But for St. Louis, this has got to be very frustrating. Again, they did mostly everything right in this game. They absolutely dominated this game. They just could not put the ball into the back of net. If they would have put the ball into the back of net, this would have been an easy 3 points and a great debut for their new head coach, Olaf Melper. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last two games to finish off the busy Saturday night action of this opening weekend's action in the 2025 MLS regular season. Now, moving on in the next game, Quakes. So, I jokingly said last year about the San Jose Earthquakes, where it's almost like once in a blue moon that the Quakes would get a clean sheet against their opposition because it only happened twice last season. But after this result, I would say that this is kind of almost like once in a solar eclipse kind of moment to see not only the Quakes getting a clean sheet, but they all also got a blowout win as well. Though I will say this: when you look at how this game plays out, I don't think the scoreline really indicate the fact that this was a little closer than what people thing. RSL actually had some chances of their own, and I thought the Quakes gave up way too many shots to RSL as well. And just another example of how this defense, one of my biggest concern heading into this season. And I think after this game, even with a clean sheet, I'm still a little doubtful in terms of how this defense is gonna look. But nevertheless, what's kind of interesting is that for a long time I always said the Quakes, they always play well when they face against RSL. In fact, one of the two clean sheet that they got last year was against Real Salt Lake, and the team that they got the clean sheet last time in MLS play was also Real Salt Lake. Now, in the first half, in the second minute, Luna would puts it wide as that was the game's first shot. Before the first shot for the Quakes this season, Sar Martinez puts it wide there. I thought it was a bit of an underwhelming kind of debut for both Joseph Martinez and Chicho Arango. I was really hoping that Chicho Arango would just go nuclear in this game facing against his old team. Didn't really quite happen in this one, but what did happen in this one was the big story of this game was kind of the supporting cast and also the homegrowns and draft picks stepped up in a big way for the Quakes in this one. But I thought early on the Quakes had most of the possession. The shots were only one apiece at least in the first 15 minutes. Lopez would have a shot that was clear off the line by Glad, but then in the 28th minute to get the opening goal of the game. And did I mention that this was a big game when it comes to the draft pick and also the supporting cast? Well, here's one of them. Jamar Ricketts, one of the draft pick for the Quakes this season. He gets his first career MLS goal from Leroux and Espinoza to make it 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. And of course, the homegrown Bo Leroux just signed a contract with the team yesterday. I was kind of surprised he actually got the start straight away, but definitely paying Bruce Arena favor of starting him in his first ever game. And yeah, just like that, it was 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. The ref was then told he sucked, and rightfully so, because apparently the linesman raised the flag for offside on RSL. And then as the ball kind of went out, he lowered the flag and basically said it's a corner. I mean, that should not be a corner. Like if you're gonna raise your flag for offside, that's always gonna be what it's the last call. So yeah, just because the ball kind of went out of play and no one touched it off of a deflection, it should not still be called a corner. Now, luckily, that really didn't matter in the end, but still, just another example where yeah, there are still some controversial calls. That happened in the opening weekend. And speaking of controversial call, we'll talk about that later tonight after the San Diego Galaxy game finished. In that game between the Timbers and Vancouver, yeah, there were definitely some controversial call, and Timbers fans are obviously very upset about those controversial calls. So that being said, going back to this game, Arango would then puts it over the bar before Luna puts it over the bar as well, just 1 minute later, and then he puts it wide from long range a minute later. Diego Luna basically is doing a carry job for RSL because he was really the only threat for RSL up to this point in creating the chances. Though in the first minute of stoppage time, Danielle had to deny Catranes from close, and we do head to halftime with the Quakes leading 1-0. In the second half, Ruiz would hit one that actually was bobbled by Danielle, but he was able to gather just in time before one of the RSL player can pounce on it. Rongo then puts it wide from long range, and then Chicho thought that he scored the his first goal for the Quakes and get his revenge goal against RSL. Problem was the goal was disallowed for offside, and it was on the development play. I think it was Espinoza, the one was in an offside position, and rightfully so. He was at least a couple of yards offside as a result. Though Cabral then denied Lopez from long range, and then he denied Orongo from close in the 55th minute, as the Quakes were pressing hard for the second goal. They were knocking on the door to try to get that 2-goal lead. Martinez then hits one into the stands before Wolf would hit one into the side netting. Though in the 62nd minute, Danielle would deny Ruiz from long range, and I thought RSL kind of woke up in the second half. And remember, as much as the Quakes have played relatively well in this one, it's still a one-goal game. And knowing this team and the fact that they have a tough time in terms of keeping clean sheet, I do not trust the fact that they can pull off a 1-0 victory. They need that second in goal in this one, and I even wrote the inability to get the second goal is going to come back to haunt this team because I have a feeling it's going to be a matter of time before RSL ties the game up. Luna then puts it wide from long range in the 66th minute. The shots were 12-9 for RSL up to this point, but then in the 70th minute, the Quakes finally got that second goal, and that kind of at least give me a little bit of a sigh of relief. And a little bit is a key word too, because this team will never give me sigh of relief, knowing I have seen a history of this team choking late in the game. But this is definitely a bit of a sigh of relief in the 70th minute when Rodriguez scored from Espinoza to make it 2-0 in favor of the Quakes. Great delivery from Espinoza from the corner, and Rodriguez, he has an knack in terms of scoring goal, especially from set pieces, and he did it there to make it 2-0. Vera tried to respond, but he hits a one hopper right to Danielle. But then in the 75th minute, the Quakes would make it 3-0. And it's Usani Buda. He scored from Espinoza to make it 3-0 in favor of the Quakes. Great through ball that was being played. Buda basically was playing on goal, and he just let him show his composure to give the Quakes a 3-0 lead. Cabral then denied Buda again denied Buda from close as Buda trying to score his second goal off the game. And you can see there was no mercy that was shown by this Quakes team. They were still pressing hard for a fourth goal as well. And eventually that was rewarded in the 83rd minute as Victor Costa would score the fourth goal to make it 4-0 for Mark Anthony K up to this point. Gonzalez then hits one right to Danielle. There was also 7 minutes of stoppage time, despite the fact that this game was long but over. I don't know why there was that many minutes of stoppage. I have no idea where the 7 minutes came from, considering there was not really any VAR call that worthy of the 7 minutes, or even any injuries I can remember in the second half that is worthy of the 7 minutes. But either way, it's a big win for the Quakes in this one. A great way to start the Bruce Arena air for the Quakes with a big win against RSL. The shots in this one, 14 shots for the 21 that RSL had. What's kind of interesting is that most of the categories actually dominate in favor of RSL. Except for the shots on goal, the Quakes did have more shots on goal. 9 shots on goal for the 7 that RSL had. 8 shots off target for the 4 that the Quakes had. 2 shots as blocked for the 4 that RSL had. And possession-wise, 59% possession compared to the 41% possession the Quakes has in this game. And they still remain at the top of not only the Western Conference right now, but also on the Supporters Shield standing because of goal differential. If you would have told me that at any point of this season the Quakes would be at the top of the league in the Supporters Shield, even if it's the opening week, I wouldn't think that would be the case. But here we are. I mean, that Bruce Arena, we know he knows how to turn bad teams into good teams in a blink of an eye. And even though I know it's still early day, and I don't want, I mean, this team is definitely gonna try to give me false optimism, and you know that I've seen this happen before, and I'm not going to be baited the fact that yeah, this team looks like things could turn out well. One thing I will say is that the Quakes are not going to be as bad as what we saw last season. Like I know this team is going to be much better this season, maybe even be a playoff team, and this is definitely a good start against an RSL team that yes, there will be some concern after this 4-0 defeat that they had, but when you look at this game by RSL, even though the scoreline says 4-0, they had their chances to score a couple of goals. And perhaps they actually got the equalizer before the Quakes got that second goal and really run up the score. This could have been a completely different game. But nevertheless, I'm pretty sure RSL fans are definitely not happy of seeing their team getting absolutely thrashed in the opening weekend. But we have seen before where teams get thrashed in the opening weekend and things would turn around, and we'll see whether or not if RSL can do that. But that being said, moving on into the last game on this board is the Seattle Sounder versus Charlotte FC, and this game is a textbook example of what happened when you don't kill your opponent off and don't get that crucial 2-goal lead to finish out the game. Because for Seattle, they dominated this game. Like they pretty much dominated majority part of this game, and they were on verge of just cruising their way to an easy 2-1 win. But like I said, when you don't put the game away and you leave your opposition in the game, and you're always vulnerable in terms of freak things happen. And in a week where defensive mishaps and also defensive breakdown has been a lure, yeah, we knew that this was gonna happen, where the Sounders would find a way to kind of shoot themselves in the foot and drop 2 crucial points. Now, just like the midweek CONCACAF Champions Cup game, I thought the Sounders were the better team, at least in the first 10 minutes up to this point. I mean, they were the better team throughout this game. They were looking good, was already putting pressure, trying to get the opening goal. Though there was only one shot, at least in the first 10 minutes, and on the second shot, it's in the back of the net. It's Jordan Morris. He scored from Manungu to make it 1-0 in favor of the Sounders. Something tells me this is the beginning of Jordan Morris going to score 15 plus goal, isn't he? He's going to be the highest American goal scorer, I think, in my opinion, in this league, because he has shown in the last couple of years what a dangerous goal scorer he can be, and already straight off the bat, getting a goal here, and end up also getting a brace in this game as well. Abada did look to try to respond, and he was actually trying to do a Lucas Oriano there, trying to catch Fry off his line there with a chip, but that one got on into the roof of the net. Though, despite that, it was all Seattle up to this point. Charlotte was just kind of getting pinned deep. They just cannot get out of their own half. And they almost found themselves 2-0 down if it wasn't for the post denying Yamar there. Though the goal wouldn't have counted because the flag went up there. But then in the 35th minute, really on one of the first opportunity that Charlotte has, they score. It's Melanda. He scored from BL to make it 1-1 in this one. It came off of a set piece as well, but just completely against the run of play up to this point, because it was all Sounders up to this point. You would not have expected Charlotte would find a way to tie the game up. And just like that, that also kind of gave the momentum for Charlotte, because they started to have more of the ball after the equalizer. Seattle, they look like they're still a bit shell shocked the fact that they gave up the equalizer, despite how dominant that they were for the first 35 minutes or so. Alex Rodon would then hits one right to Kalina before Morris would also do the same thing in the 45th minute. And we head to halftime tied up at one apiece, despite the fact that, again, the Sounders by far the better team up to this point. Though in the second half, they waste no time to restore their lead, as Jordan Morris, he scored from Rusnak here to give the Sounders a well-deserved 2-1 lead. Vargas, though, looked to respond, and this is Kervin Vargas, that is, because we had two Vargas here in this game. But Kervin Vargas looks to respond for Charlotte, but he missed this one wide. Rusnak then hits it right to Kalina before Kalina actually punched a dangerous cross that was delivered by Albert Rusnak. The Sounders were pressing hard to try and get that 2-goal lead. Obar Vargas would then hit one that was spilled by Kalina, but fortunately for Kalina, that one actually spilled and goes out of play. And then Christian Rodon would heads it right to Kalina in the 73rd minute. Again, the Sounders, they were pounding on the door for that third goal, but the question is, can they get that third goal to kill this game off? Because like I said, the longer you let your opposition in this game, the more likely there could be some freak event that could happen that will let the Sounders regretting not getting that third goal. And that's exactly what happened, because after a half-hearted shout for a penalty for Charlotte not given in the 90th minute, in the second minute of stoppage time, Charlotte would tie the game up. And it's an own goal by Yamar here, and really, this was just, it all started because of a bad turnover there from Jackson Reagan, and then it just kind of capped off of just an unfortunate own goal there from Yamar as the ball was played in. When you're a defender and you're trying to poke it away, and you're facing toward your own goal, that is a very helpless kind of feeling. That is the worst area you want to try to toe poke it in, because you might accidentally toe poke it into your own net, and that's exactly what happened in this moment. So yeah, that gives the equalizer for Charlotte, probably very undeserved, but still they walk away with a point out of this game, and you could kind of say in the classic cliche, or a classic English cliche, that feels like a smash and grab point that Charlotte just got in this game against the Sounders. The shots in this one, 18 shots compared to 7 that the Charlotte has. 8 shots on goal compared to just 1 that Charlotte has. Yes, Charlotte actually had more goals in this game than shot on goal. It is not very often you usually see that happen often. 4 shots off target compared to 1 that the Sounders had. 9 shots out of block for the 2 that Charlotte has. And possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Charlotte has in this game. So there's no doubt the Sounders, they're going to be absolutely kicking themselves that they didn't get all 3 points in this game. And while I know it is still early in the season, but we'll see whether or not, if these 2 points that is dropped by the Sounders, even if this is the first game of the season, is that going to come back to haunt them, because we know as the season goes along, especially once we get to the playoff push, or even for fighting for those top seeding, if the Sounders does miss out on a couple of points in the end to maybe finish at the top of the standings, they're definitely going to look back at this game as one of the reason why they shouldn't do it. If they would have got all 3 points in this one, they probably could have finished themselves at top if they find themselves in that situation down the stretch. And yeah, either way, for Charlotte, like I said, just an absolute smashing ride. They definitely didn't deserve this point, but they wouldn't care. That's just kind of the way Dean Smith preaches team. Always have that self belief when they're not at the best, and sometimes luck goes your side. And as I said so many times this weekend, when it's a weekend of defensive mishap, and yeah, it's no surprise we saw another one of it happen in this game as well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it when it comes to the review of these remaining Saturday night game. Again, we got one more review to do, which is the Sunday game. One of them, of course, already finished, but we're gonna talk about the last game in just a bit with this last game. That is Sunday Night Soccer between the Galaxy and San Diego, kicking off relatively soon. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.